Hello everybody, Argent here, and we're going to do a post-mortem of the Democratic debate. Who I think won, who I think lost, general thoughts. Just want to give a quick shout out to my friend and frequent co-host, Sirp Kerp. He did a really good live stream breaking it down. As per normal during his live streams, he had a couple beers and he gets pretty funny and pretty uncensored. He had to take it down though, because it was too spicy. Hopefully he'll put it back up on Bitchute at some point. But plug out of the way. So what do I think of the debate? I think they actually did a pretty good job. Forget if it was 10 or 12 candidates, but I think they did a good job considering it was always going to be a bad idea to have a debate that big. They did cover a lot of topics. They did give most people a chance to respond to one or two things. There were certainly some candidates like Cory Booker, I think got a lot more time than some of the other candidates, but overall, I think they did the best job that they could, to be honest. With the exception of the boomer posting where everything just kind of collapsed, I think things went pretty well overall. Anyways, that being said, who do I think did good and who do I think did bad? Now, the interesting thing about the Democratic debate is, obviously I'm very right-wing, but I'm kind of like moderate on, I don't know if you want to call me like big brain centrist on like economic issues and welfare issues. So there is bound to be some things I would agree with these guys more than others. So like things I'm kind of interested in, and I know I'm a Canadian, but like just discussions about healthcare and welfare and foreign policy, because these are areas I might have some overlap. Because prior to Obama, the Democratic Party was anti-intervention except when Bill Clinton was in power. And every other president, Democratic president, was in power. But under Bush, they were very anti-foreign intervention. And we can really see that that's changed because a lot of them were very critical of Trump's withdrawing from like Syria, wanting to withdraw from Afghanistan, withdrawing from Iraq. A lot of them just really wanted to, just continue these wars. In particular, they were like critical of Trump for carrying out diplomacy with Kim Jong-un. They're like, no, he shouldn't have talked to them. He shouldn't have tried to negotiate any of that stuff. And there is a couple people like Tim Ryan and Tulsi Gabbard who were more, I don't know if you want to say isolationist or just more like, we don't want to keep sending our boys to die in stupid wars that don't benefit America. So they tried to cut them off though as much as possible. So it's interesting how that's changed. The neoconservatives really hate Trump, which is weird because Trump is probably the most pro-Israel president in American history. The only one I think who comes close is probably Lyndon B. Johnson. But the neocons hate him anyways because he doesn't want to go to war with everybody. So the neocons have largely decided to back the Democratic Party, and you could really see that in full display. So that's interesting. Obviously, there's the whole, we gotta confiscate all the guns, they don't really have any idea what they're going to do on healthcare or any of that stuff, etc. So the actual performance of people in the debate. Now, it's probably not going to be anyone's surprise that both Sirp and my favorite candidate was Tim Ryan, who was the only one who was kind of arguing from kind of a populist, sort of nationalist perspective. He gave this really based speech about how the Democratic Party has completely sold out the working class, and if we want to win, we need to campaign in places other than like Harvard, and like we need to be a party of both the working class and the as well as the intellectuals, and we need to stop just pandering endlessly to big city types. And no one really addressed that or followed him up on that because that was a racist thing to say, because working class is a code word for white people. So he said that. He also wanted to pull out of Afghanistan. He in general just felt that the party should get back to economic populism and I guess kind of like just America first economic policies, and that was kind of the main grounds that he attacked Trump over. So he was the only one who talked about things other than like gender issues. Tulsi Gabbard, who Serp Kerp calls Mommy GF, she did okay. They didn't let her speak. She managed to get one good line in about how Saudi Arabia was the world's chief sponsor of terrorism, but she immediately got shut down. It was like they immediately went to somebody else when she said that. She was pulling in Alex Jones and breaking the narrative, and that kind of thing. So she did okay. They just didn't let her talk really. So let's talk about the other candidates, the ones that have some realistic chance of winning. I think the person who unambiguously won this debate was Julian Castro, because no one really knew who he was. And he was like one of the very few candidates who didn't look like they were high as fuck. Because that was like something, and Sir pointed this out too. Like most of them looked like they were on meth or cocaine or Adderall. Like their eyes were darting all over the place. They were like incoherently rambling. They were just all super jerky. It was really kind of like disturbing to watch. They looked like very uncomfortable, and they were just very incoherent and rambly. And he was really the only one who, other than Tim Ryan and Tulsi Gabbard, of course, but they're not going to get any votes because they said a couple things that make sense. I'm not saying like I'd vote for them over Trump or anything. Definitely not. I very strongly disagree with them on a lot of stuff, but they at least had some ideas that appealed to me. But no, he was like the only one who didn't seem like he was on drugs. And I guess that's a pretty good thing. Also, he was at like 1%. No one really knew who he was. So I think being impressive and giving a good performance when there's no expectations really helps him. I think the fact that he's a Hispanic male is probably a good position. So it's a minority, but it's kind of not as... We've already had a... African-American male president, so having a Hispanic one isn't really that much of a stretch. I guess you could say maybe it's less radical than having a female president or a female minority president. But overall, like, and he was probably the most left-wing on like social issues and immigration and all kinds of stuff like that. But he was at least able to like answer questions in a coherent way and not act like he was a drug-addled maniac. And that's saying a lot, because I mean, if you recall the vice presidential debates, both Tim Kaine and Joe Biden acted like drug-addled maniacs when they were debating. It was really like disturbing to watch. I guess the other person, just to touch on, and the fact that I almost forgot her, I think says something. Elizabeth Warren, or as I like to call her, the granny pill. She was terrible. You know how old Trump is? You know how old Hillary is? She's even older. Well, I don't know if she's technically older, but she seems older. Trump is still a very vigorous guy for his age. He's still very, like, he still has a lot of, he's not really low energy, obviously. I think he's probably too old to be president, especially for a second term, but that's neither here nor there. On the other hand, Elizabeth Warren is way too old. Every time she started talking, it reminded me of like my 90-year-old grandmother. She sounded like she didn't want to be there, that she was about to fall asleep or die. I don't even know if she'd make it through the harsh rigors of a campaign period in one piece without like dropping dead part of the way through. So I just think her candidacy is a no starter. I don't think she's going to go anywhere. Her answers were incoherent. It was just awful. So those are my thoughts on the debate. I might actually watch the other one, because this was actually more interesting than I thought it was going to be, especially if Serp does another stream. Maybe we'll do a stream together. I'll have to think about it. Anyways, guys, God bless. This is Argent. As always, we must dissent.